Imagine kicking a rock while walking your dog, and that rock turns out to be worth millions of dollars. Sounds crazy, right? Well, that's basically what happened to some of the luckiest people in history. And today, we're diving into 5 archaeological discoveries that were so unbelievably lucky. They'll make you want to grab a shovel and start digging in your backyard right now. But here's the thing. These weren't all found by professionals with fancy degrees and expensive equipment. Some of these life-changing discoveries were made by regular people, just like you and me, who happened to be in the right place at the right time. And one of them? It sat in someone's attic for years before anyone realized what it actually was. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll see that history's greatest treasures weren't always found where people expected them to be. And that last one, it literally rewrote everything we thought we knew about an entire civilization. Let's start with a discovery that happened because someone gave up. It's 1899 in Crete, and a British archaeologist named Arthur Evans just bought a piece of land that nobody wanted. Other archaeologists had poked around this area before and found absolutely nothing interesting. They all moved on. The land was considered worthless for digging, but Evans had a hunch. He'd seen some ancient seals being sold in antique shops in Athens, and sellers told him they came from Crete. That was enough for him. He started digging where everyone else had quit, and within weeks, his team hit something. Then something else. Then something else. They'd stumbled onto the Palace of Knossos, the heart of the Minoan civilization. We're talking about a culture that nobody even knew existed. This place had advanced plumbing, multiple stories, incredible artwork, and a complexity that shouldn't have been possible for that time period. The palace covered over 6 acres. It had running water, flush toilets, and architectural designs so advanced that engineers today still scratch their heads trying to figure out how they did it without modern technology. Evans found thousands of clay tablets with an unknown writing system, colorful frescoes showing bull leaping ceremonies, and evidence of a sophisticated society that predated ancient Greece by centuries. Here's the lucky part. If Evans had listened to everyone else, if he'd trusted the experts who said there was nothing there, one of the most important civilizations in human history might still be buried under that hill. The Minoans would be unknown. Our entire understanding of early European civilization would have a massive gap in it, but he didn't listen. And one man's stubbornness gave us an entire lost world. Now, let's talk about the discovery that happened because someone was looking for water. It's 1947 in the Middle East, near the Dead Sea. A young Bedouin shepherd is searching for a lost goat. The desert is hot, he's frustrated, and he's climbing around these cliffs trying to find his animal. He tosses a rock into a cave opening, probably out of boredom, and hears something break. Not the sound of rock hitting rock. The sound of pottery shattering. Curious, he climbs into the cave. Inside, he finds clay jars, and inside those jars, ancient scrolls. Really, really old scrolls. He had no idea what he'd found. To him, they were just old leather documents. He actually took them back to his camp and hung them on a tent pole for a while, not thinking much of it. Eventually, these scrolls made their way to an antique dealer in Bethlehem. The dealer didn't know what they were either. He showed them to a few people. Most weren't interested. One person bought a few for a price so low it's embarrassing to mention. These scrolls got passed around, sold, resold, stuck in drawers, forgotten about. Then a scholar actually looked at them carefully. His hands started shaking. These weren't just old documents. These were the Dead Sea Scrolls, biblical texts over 2,000 years old, preserved almost perfectly in the desert climate. They were 1,000 years older than any other known biblical manuscripts. They would revolutionize our understanding of early Judaism and Christianity. Over the next decade, archaeologists found more caves in the area, 11 caves total. Hundreds more scrolls and fragments. Together, they represent one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. Religious texts, community rules, biblical commentaries, all hidden in jars in desert caves, waiting for a shepherd looking for his goat. The luck here is staggering. If that goat hadn't wandered off, if that shepherd had walked a different path, if he hadn't thrown that specific rock into that specific cave, these scrolls might have sat there for another 2,000 years, or crumbled into dust. We'd never know what we were missing. But a bored shepherd threw a rock, and we got answers to questions scholars had been asking for centuries. Let's jump to our third discovery, and this one involves a farmer who is way more interested in water than treasure. It's 1974 in China, and there's a drought. A bad one. A group of farmers in Shanxi province is digging a well because their crops are dying. They're not thinking about history or archaeology. They're thinking about survival. They're digging deeper and deeper into the dry earth, and then one of their shovels hits something hard. They pull it up. It's a piece of terracotta pottery shaped like a human head. Then they find an arm, then a torso. They keep digging and find more pieces. The farmers report it to local authorities, who contact archaeologists who rush to the site and absolutely lose their minds. These farmers had punched through the roof of an underground vault containing thousands of life-size terracotta warriors. An entire army buried for over 2,000 years, built to protect China's first emperor in the afterlife. Each warrior is unique. Different faces, different expressions, different ranks and uniforms. There are soldiers, archers, generals, horses, chariots, all standing in battle formation, frozen in clay. The site is massive. 3 main pits covering over 20,000 square meters. Archaeologists estimate there are more than 8,000 soldiers down there, though they're still excavating. There are also acrobats, musicians, and officials. It's an entire terracotta world built with incredible craftsmanship and then buried and forgotten. Emperor Qin Shi Huang had this built before he died in 210 BC. Historical records mentioned he had a grand tomb, but nobody took it seriously. It sounded like exaggeration, like ancient propaganda. Then, farmers digging a well proved the legends were real. Factor here is wild. They could have dug that well 20 feet to the left or right and missed everything. The vault could have collapsed centuries ago and destroyed everything inside. Looters could have found it first. But none of that happened. Drought-stricken farmers dug in exactly the right spot at exactly the right angle and gave the world one of the greatest archaeological sites ever discovered. Today, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Millions of people visit every year. And it all started because some farmers needed water. Our fourth story takes us to England, and this one proves you don't need a degree to make history. It's 2009, and a guy named Terry Herbert is walking through a farm field in Staffordshire with a metal detector. He's not a professional archaeologist. He's not even a professional treasure hunter. He's just a regular guy with a hobby. He'd been metal detecting for 18 years and found mostly junk. Bottle caps, old nails, broken tools, the usual stuff. But on this particular day in July, his detector starts going crazy. He digs down and finds a small gold object, then another, then another. He keeps finding gold items, one after another, scattered across the field. By the end of the day, he's found dozens of pieces. He contacts the landowner, then the local archaeologist. What he'd stumbled onto was the Staffordshire Hoard, the largest collection of Anglo-Saxon gold ever found in the United Kingdom. Over 3,500 items. Gold sword fittings, helmet pieces, Christian crosses, all dating back to the 7th or 8th century. The craftsmanship was extraordinary. Intricate designs, garnet inlays, gold work so fine it's hard to believe it was made over 1,300 years ago. The total weight of the gold alone was over 11 pounds. The hoard was valued at over 3 million pounds, split between Terry and the landowner. But the historical value, priceless. This collection changed what historians knew about Anglo-Saxon metalwork, warfare, and culture during that period. Here's what makes this so lucky. That field had been plowed for generations. Farmers had walked over that ground thousands of times. Other metal detectorists had probably swept that area before, but nobody found it until Terry, an amateur with a hobby, decided to check that specific field on that specific day. The hoard was buried just below the surface. A few more years of plowing might have scattered it beyond recovery or brought pieces to the surface where they'd be lost or mistaken for trash. But Terry's timing was perfect. His persistence paid off, and he proved that you don't need fancy credentials to make world-changing discoveries. You just need curiosity, patience, and a whole lot of luck. Which brings us to our fifth and final discovery, and this one is probably the most famous stroke of luck in archaeological history. It's November 1922 in Egypt's Valley of the Kings. Howard Carter has been digging for years, funded by Lord Carnarvon, searching for the tomb of a minor pharaoh named Tutankhamun. Most experts thought he was wasting his time. The Valley of the Kings had been picked over for centuries. Every significant tomb had supposedly been found and looted long ago. Lord Carnarvon was ready to give up. He told Carter this was the last season. If they didn't find anything, he was pulling funding. Carter had one more year to find a tomb that most people didn't believe existed anymore. Carter decided to dig in an area that seemed unpromising. It was near the entrance to another tomb, covered with ancient workers' huts. Previous archaeologists had dismissed it as just a living area for the people who built the real tombs. Nothing important could be buried there. But Carter had his team clear away the huts and dig down. On November 4th, they found a step cut into the bedrock. Then another step. Then more steps, leading down to a sealed doorway. Carter's heart must have been pounding. He sent a telegram to Lord Carnarvon and waited for him to arrive from England. On November 26, with Lord Carnarvon watching, Carter made a small hole in the door and held up a candle to peer inside. Carnarvon asked if he could see anything. Carter's response became legendary. Yes, wonderful things. Inside was an antechamber packed with treasures. Golden couches, chests, chariots, statues, all crammed into a relatively small space. Beyond that was another sealed door, and beyond that, the burial chamber containing Tutankhamun's sarcophagus, nested coffins, and a solid gold death mask that would become one of the most recognizable artifacts in the world. The tomb had been entered by robbers in ancient times, but they'd been caught before they could take much. It was resealed and forgotten. For over 3,000 years, it sat there, just feet away from where thousands of people had walked, worked, and dug. The luck here is almost impossible to calculate. If Carter had dug anywhere else in the valley, he would have found nothing and lost his funding. Those ancient workers' huts had been positioned differently. Earlier archaeologists might have investigated the area. If the ancient robbers had succeeded, the tomb would have been emptied long ago. If Lord Carnarvon had cut funding 1 year earlier, the tomb would still be buried. But everything aligned perfectly. Carter's stubbornness, his willingness to dig where others saw no potential, and his timing gave the world the most intact pharaoh's tomb ever discovered. It sparked a global fascination with ancient Egypt that continues today, a century later. So what do these 5 discoveries teach us? First, that expertise and credentials don't always matter as much as determination and luck. A hobby metal detectorist found Anglo-Saxon gold. A shepherd looking for a goat found religious texts that scholars had dreamed of discovering. Second, that the most important finds often happen in places that experts have dismissed or overlooked. The Palace of Knossos, Tutankhamun's tomb, the Terracotta Army, all found where people said there was nothing to find. And third, that timing is everything. A few years earlier or later, and these discoveries might never have happened. The artifacts might have been destroyed, lost, or found by people who didn't recognize their value. It makes you wonder what's still out there, buried under fields and hills and deserts, waiting for someone to get lucky. Maybe it's you. Maybe all you need is curiosity, a shovel, and the willingness to dig where everyone else has given up. If you enjoyed this journey through history's luckiest moments, hit that subscribe button because we've got more incredible stories coming your way. And drop a comment telling me which discovery blew your mind the most. Was it the shepherd and his goat, the farmers looking for water, or Carter's last chance dig that found King Tut? Let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.